Hello and welcome to the third episode of Tour TV. I am your host, JD Conroy. I'm a tour director with American Classic Tours. And before we jump in to today's episode, I just wanted to say thanks to all of you who tuned in to our first couple episodes of Tour TV on the Canadian Rockies and the Southwest National Parks. And if you have any ideas or feedback or thoughts on any episodes or tours you'd like us to talk about, please do not hesitate to email or call us. Our contact information is on our website. And to all you first-time viewers, welcome. We've got a great episode in store for you today. We're going to be talking about a historic pilgrimage that every American should take. And that is our Chesapeake Bay and Colonial Virginia tour coming up next April. So why do I say this is a historic pilgrimage that every American should take? Well, it's full of historic sites and shrines, including Fort McHenry, Annapolis, and the Naval Academy, First Landing Cross, the Old Cape Henry Lighthouse. We'll visit the historic Triangle of Virginia, Jamestown, Williamsburg, and Yorktown. We'll visit Thomas Jefferson's Monticello home and George Washington's Mount Vernon home, and we will tour Washington, D.C., and we will do this all in just 8 days. So along with the historical element of this tour, the second thing that makes this tour special is the variety of experiences you will have on this tour. And that's because this trip is split into 4 parts. The first part is the Chesapeake Bay region. It's here that you'll see gorgeous seascapes, you'll experience coastal life, you'll go on a cruise, you'll eat a lot of seafood and crab. It's a real nice way to start the trip. The second part of the tour is Colonial Virginia, where you'll visit the historic triangle of Jamestown, Yorktown, and Williamsburg. And it's here that you'll be immersed in an early American history. The third part of the tour is the Blue Ridge Mountains. We'll visit and stay actually in Shenandoah National Park. We'll drive the Skyline Drive, and it's here that you get more of a rural feel. You'll get away from it all. It's quieter and very, very scenic. And then the third part, we get back into kind of an urban setting in Washington, D.C. We experience a lot of lively American culture as well as learn more about American history. So real quick, let's take a look at the route we'll be taking on this tour. We'll fly into Washington, D.C. We'll drive up to Baltimore, across then the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, down the Delmar Peninsula here to the Virginia Beach, Norfolk area. Then we'll make our way up to the Shenandoah National Park and Monticello here. We'll stay at the Skyland Resort here before returning to Washington, D.C., where we'll stay our last night and fly out the next morning. So let's jump into the itinerary. Like any other American Classic tour, the first day of your tour will start with a free home pickup at your front door. Your limo driver will bring you to the airport, where you'll be met curbside by an American Classic staff member, probably Kirsten, who's pictured here, who will lead you from your limousine inside to a private group airline check-in, where a couple more American Classic staffers will help you check in at the airport. And then you'll make your way down to the gate, you'll board your plane, and you'll enjoy a relaxing flight that is included within the price of your tour. We'll fly to Washington, D.C., and we'll board our motor coach and drive just an hour north up to Baltimore. In Baltimore, we'll visit Fort McHenry, the site of a battle in the War of 1812. It's located here on the Baltimore Harbor. And it's also known as the birthplace of the Star-Spangled Banner. It was in the midst of battle that Francis Scott Key was looking on, and he saw these soldiers raise the American flag during their fight. And he was so inspired by the scene that he wrote the Star-Spangled Banner. After, we'll enjoy a delicious crab feast at Bo Brooks, situated beautifully on the Baltimore Harbor. If you love seafood, you're in for a treat on this trip, folks. This is one of the highlights of the tour for me, as you can see here in this picture. So the next morning, we'll make our way to the charming coastal village of Annapolis. Annapolis's buildings all have this uniform red brick style architecture, with the exception of the gray stone buildings found at the U.S. Naval Academy. And we'll take a guided tour of the U.S. Naval Academy. We'll learn what life is like as a midshipman at the Academy. We'll tour the Academy's famous sites, including the gravesite of war hero John Paul Jones. I love this photo here of Annapolis. You can see the tops of the buildings, which are just very beautiful here at the U.S. Naval Academy. And then you see on the bottom left corner of the screen, this boat here is the boat we'll be taking the next day on our Chesapeake Bay cruise. On our Chesapeake Bay cruise, we'll see a number of lighthouses, which are called screw pile lighthouses, and these are unique to the Chesapeake Bay. They sit way out in the water, not on the shore like most lighthouses do, and they provide some really nice pictures on our cruise. This one here is called the Thomas Point Shoal Lighthouse. The next morning we'll visit the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum. We'll learn all about shipbuilding, how the Chesapeake Bays affected the American economy. We'll learn about the marine life in the Chesapeake Bay as well. Next, we'll journey across the majestic Chesapeake Bay Bridge. If you look at this map here, you'll see we'll cross two bridges on this tour. The first is the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. The Chesapeake Bay Bridge is really high up off the ground. It's 4.5 miles long, and it's often cited as being America's scariest bridge. It's a real fun experience with the group traveling across this bridge on the motor coach. Then we'll make our way all the way down the Del Mar Peninsula, which you see here, all the way down to Virginia Beach, and as you can see, we'll have to cross another bridge, and that second bridge is called the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, and it's 18 miles long. It goes above water and underwater at certain points. If you look at this photo here, way off in the distance, if you really squint, you can see another piece of land. Well, that's actually the bridge, and this is the bridge. I took this photo with my iPhone, and as you can see, there's a huge gap in the bridge. Well, that's the underground tunnel, and they built that tunnel underground so that ships can make it into the Chesapeake Bay. So you get a chance to experience this. You'll drive under the Chesapeake Bay. Then we'll arrive in Virginia Beach, where we'll take in the Virginia International Military Tattoo. And this is really the centerpiece of this tour. It's an amazing event. I'm sure many of you have heard of the International Tattoo in Edinburgh, Scotland. Well, this is the second largest international tattoo, right behind that. Military drill teams, bands, dancers from around the world come and perform at this amazing event. There's thousands of people here in this basketball stadium. It's really a neat celebration, kind of globalism and patriotism at the same time. Remember at the beginning of this episode, I discussed the 4 major regions we'd be visiting on this tour. The first was the Chesapeake Bay region, and the second was the Colonial Virginia region. Well, it's at this point of the tour that we'll be entering the Colonial Virginia portion of the tour. Before we get to the historic triangle, which you see here of Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown, we'll stop by First Landing Point. And it was here, at this sand you're looking at right here, that they believe the first English settlers in 1607 walked on the sand after their long voyage across the Atlantic. They would later walk further inland to Jamestown and settle in Jamestown, but it was here that they first arrived on shore. There's a cross here called First Landing Cross commemorating their first landing. We'll also get a chance to learn about the Old Cape Henry Lighthouse, which was the first federally commissioned construction project in the history of the United States. It was commissioned in 1792. You'll have a chance to walk to the top of the lighthouse as well if you'd like. Then we'll make our way to Colonial Williamsburg, which is definitely one of the highlights of this tour. It's one of the most unique places in America. And why is that? Well, it's like a living, breathing colonial city. Everyone's dressed in colonial garb. All the buildings and inns, restaurants, roads, they're all as they would have been probably in colonial times. It's really, really a neat experience. So next we'll visit Jamestown. I'm sure you remember in elementary school learning that in 1607 the English settled in Jamestown. It was the first English settlement in North America, even before Plymouth, Massachusetts. There's a wonderful museum there. We'll learn a lot about the life of the early colonists. And then we'll journey to Yorktown, which was home of the Siege of Yorktown, or the Battle of Yorktown, which in 1781, George Washington and the American Continental Army defeated the Brits and General Cornwallis in the last major battle of the American Revolution. And actually, just recently, in the last few years, they've built a state-of-the-art American Revolutionary War Museum right there in Yorktown. It's one of my favorite museums in the entire country. It's a real highlight of the tour. Next, we'll journey to Monticello, the beautiful mountain estate of Thomas Jefferson. We'll learn all about Thomas Jefferson as we tour his estate. We'll learn about his impact on American society and government, his many interests he had, from the sciences to the arts to government, and we'll learn about how he ran his estate. Then we'll journey on the beautiful Skyland Drive through Shenandoah National Park. We'll see the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains. You'll see scenes like this as we drive up in the late afternoon, early evening, and check into the beautiful Skyland Resort atop one of the tallest mountains in Shenandoah National Park. You'll be overlooking a scene like this from the lodge. Then we'll journey to our second presidential house of our tour, that is George Washington's Mount Vernon. We'll learn all about George Washington, his relationship with his family and his relationship to his slaves, his many interests, and his business pursuits. He's actually one of the great businessmen in American history, believe it or not. And we'll learn all about his house, how he went into thinking about building it. He thought it was on the most beautiful spot in the entire world, overlooking the Potomac River. Then we'll journey to one of the highlights of the tour for me, my favorite restaurant in the entire world, Philomena's Restaurant in Georgetown in Washington, D.C. This restaurant is really one of a kind. You will enjoy some gourmet Italian cuisine, and we'll top off dinner with some sambuca and some amaretto. It is really an amazing, amazing experience. The next morning, we'll take a guided tour of Washington, D.C. We'll see the White House, we'll see the Lincoln Memorial, we'll see the World War II Memorial, the Jefferson Memorial, the Vietnam War Memorial, the Korean War Memorial, and the Capitol Building. So with our guided tour of Washington, D.C., we'll conclude our tour and we'll fly home. And when you think about it, over 8 days, we see those 4 different regions. We see a variety of scenic topography. We see history. We take in culture and cuisine, art. There's so much on this tour. And we see a lot of those, like I said, historic shrines that every American should see and cross off their bucket list. So if you're interested in this tour, you probably want to know what's included. Well, here it is. We call this the American Classic Difference. We include more so you can sit back and relax and enjoy your tour. So included in the price of your tour is a free home pickup and return to begin and end your tour. We'll do a private group airline check-in, round-trip airfare, and 1 checked bag is included in the price of your tour. Deluxe motor coach transportation, 7 nights deluxe hotel accommodations, and we stay in very, very high quality, nice hotels. 14 meals, 7 breakfasts, 1 lunch, and 6 dinners. Luggage handling is included throughout your tour. All attractions, admissions, and entertainments included. All gratuities, including the tips for your tour director and your driver, are included. The services of an American Classic tour director like me are included. I'll be with you the entire way to make sure everything on the tour works out and goes smoothly for you. And then Travel Guard trip insurance is already included in the price of your tour. So if you're interested, there's limited space available on this tour. We anticipate it will sell out quickly. So call 847-548-3333 to make your reservation before space runs out. If you're thinking you're going to sign up anyways in a couple months, you might as well sign up now. Make sure you still have space. We do think this tour will sell out. The price of this tour is $37.98 for double occupancy per person and $45.59 per person for single occupancy. And I'd like to give you an additional offer since you made it to the end of this episode. You'll get $100 off when you sign up. When you call in to make your reservation, just mention that you saw JD's Tour TV episode and use the promo code Chesapeake19 and we'll give you $100 off per person when you sign up for this tour. So that's it for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in, and please, if you have any feedback, please comment on our YouTube feed, comment on our website, comment on our Facebook page. We'd love to hear your feedback. I hope you'll be able to join me on this awesome trip to the Chesapeake Bay and Colonial Virginia.